Okay, so this is a reply to Rosla. I actually learned how to say the name after taking a few minutes to replay the video she made in order to actually say it properly. Also known as Ashley. I'm not going to say the last four letters because I'm saying this off the top of my head and I forgot. This is about the video Star Wars: The Old Republic: The Dying Player Base. This is a reply to her Let's Talk Serious. And well, it wouldn't be a Let's Talk Serious if she didn't get replies. So it's time to return the favor and we're going to talk. That way I listened to her. I actually sat through all 54 minutes of the video and there were some good points, some points I don't really like or agree with. And then, so part of my opinions might come off as strong. I do not mean to just say yours are invalid. All opinions are valid. They are opinions. They are not fact. You can't disprove an opinion. So that being said, I wanted to give this disclaimer early because I know how I speak. I've heard it. I can be brash, and the people I'm gilded with, I'm even gilded with this person, can attest to such. I am actually brasher in the Discord for various reasons. I'm not going to go into those reasons, but if you're curious, well, people can freaking ask. So, with that all out of the way, let's get right on down to the point. She says, one of the first things she says, and I actually agree with, is the game doing away with the class stories did kind of screw it. It screwed it in the sense of it robbed the game of whatever identity it had. Every MMO has something unique. Final Fantasy XIV, I can play as any class. 3 tank, there's the DPS, I even got some healers in there. All of the DPS, like you can do all the jobs. You can even do all the crafting jobs. Now you're stuck to that one role, and it's one of the more unique things that Final Fantasy has, other than Star Wars: The Old Republic. Star Wars: The Old Republic does have something similar, but it actually depends. If you play like Assassin, you get tank and DPS. I don't think there's anything off the top of my head that has all three roles. You either get healer or DPS or tank or DPS. I don't think there's a class with tank or heals. And this is going off memory because I haven't played in a few months, like for actual content. I've logged on to RP and I play a Marauder. They have 3 solid DPSs. I have been playing since the beginning. I've been here from the start, but I don't actually intend to finish with the way the game is heading. I'm just cashing in my chips now for multiple reasons. But this is where I sort of disagree. She says Rise of the Hutt Cartel. You said Rise of the Hutt Cartel wasn't as bad. And a small bit you're right. It wasn't as bad and it told a great story. However, I sort of felt I was somewhat doing the same thing across both my Republic and Imperial side characters. My Republic being the Trooper, my Sith Marauder being who she is. And one's light side, one's dark side. And it just, well, it did feel different enough for me to obviously replay it. I don't want to replay, like, I've replayed Rise of the Hutt Cartel on all my characters. Up to Rise of the Hutt Cartel, the game is completely replayable up to a certain extent. The whole freedom of choice thing is only so limited with BioWare. It's how they've always been. I don't fault them too much, and it fits what the story they're going for. Obviously, you're not going to do freedom of choice and then have something be like a Jedi action for a dark side Sith warrior. It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. So I am fine with the limited options based off the story they're trying to sell me, which I obviously bought. So whatever. Now, where it did go wrong is Shadow of Revan. The main reason it went wrong is I don't remember KOTOR 1 and 2 much, but Revan was over and done with. I know that much. And they brought him back for the sake of nostalgia. That was a big mistake. That was a move they did out of greed. Now, I realize we're talking about EA here, too, which practically owns BioWare at this point. So it's kind of safe to say that it was an EA business decision. I'm not going to assume that right off the bat. I'm not going to claim it's fact or anything. That's just how it is. And with Shadow of Revan, you just had primarily single-player content. It was a twist in a nice direction, personally, for me, because I don't like to group up. But I see the downside of it not being multiplayer. In fact, the one thing I've probably criticized SWTOR of, especially lately, with the lack of content, it's been, as you've said, nearly 2 years since any content's come out. That will kill a lot of MMOs. WoW just released a new expansion. A lot of people are still playing WoW because they're still pumping out content. Because it keeps people playing, it keeps them wanting to make more. It's a cycle. So, when you have things like Shadow of Revan, it was a turnoff. And for me, it wasn't as big of a turnoff because, frankly, I never cared about Revan. Revan was garbage. I've said it, people love him, it's whatever. So, it is what it is. And Shadow of Revan did sort of put emphasis on single-player story, but they also threw in, like, something that required an ops group in the middle of it. So, it was nice. I saw the balance. I saw people in general chat asking, can we get an operation together to do this? And, well, people did it. I've watched people do it. I've even partook in it once myself, just to, complete the thing, because why not? And it was fun. It wasn't too difficult, but it wasn't, like, blind face roll easy like this raid is going to be, assuming all things go right. But this is an old Final Fantasy XIV raid. And the reason I'm playing Final Fantasy XIV is this is what I'm going to compare SWTOR to, because I'm going to compare it in the sense that you should always look at your competitors, what they're doing right and wrong. And SWTOR is doing a lot of things wrong. You say yourself it's crippled. I agree. There's nothing wrong there. And now, after Shadow of Revan was done, it was a decent expansion. It wasn't the worst. Where it got bad was the Knights of Zakul. They have effectively, unlike with Shadow of Revan, they cut away all the classes. You're essentially doing the same thing across all 8 characters, but you get a little difference of choice. It's like going to Baskin Robbins, and they only have they had 30 flavors, 31 I believe their store says, but they dropped it down to just the same one with a different little, it's like chocolate but with sprinkles, chocolate but with random donut glazing on it because it looks good? I don't know. Zakul just felt, it was a nice twist in a way that, a foreign power comes out of the nowhere and beats the Republican Empire. I was cool with that until I read up on it at the time. And the gap it takes to conquer the entire galaxy was about just under 5 years. I have serious problems with this. I have serious problems because if anyone can conquer a galaxy and subdue it in under 5 years, then what took them so long to show themselves? It just sort of feels like a cop-out and a pointless introduction to a third faction when you could have had both of the factions do something like with Isotope 5. Both factions got Isotope 5. That's in the story. Regardless if you agree or disagree that the Republic or the Empire didn't get Isotope 5, both sides got it. It's in the game. It's there. There's probably a video on it. I can't obviously link it at the moment for various reasons. But it's pretty much known that both sides have it, and even if it's in the game also because, well, they said it's in the game. They pretty much said when Zakul rolled about that only ships fitted with Isotope 5. They didn't say, the Empire ships or the Republic, so obviously both sides have it for some reason or another. So, that being said, with the whole SWTOR rolling in, all the classes got lumped into one, the Outlander. And it makes no sense for some of the classes to do it. Why is the Trooper there? Why is the Smuggler there? Better question, why is the Bounty Hunter there? The Imperial Agent I can somewhat get behind, only because Imperial Agent. I can't, well, then I have to justify Trooper too. I kind of contradicted myself, I know, but Troopers operate more on the front lines, and we didn't know Havoc Squad survived. We didn't know anything. Our character was gone for 5 years. All we knew was that, hey, you're gone for 5 years. That's it. And, like, when you play through the expansion at the beginning, it is, none of your friends are alive, or if they are, you don't know. So, it's sort of pointless. And then there's the whole shafting the Republic with the Empire together. I blame Shadow of Revan for this because it was only a temporary truce, because the Revanites somehow actually mustered more than enough strength to be able to fight the Empire and the Republic, despite the fact that those two are like the known galactic powers. And both of them could likely crap stomp a little cult. How it became so powerful and how it got those spies is beyond me, but for this, it's their story, so I mean, we'll just have to assume they magically did it? I don't know. See, it would have been cool if there was stuff leading up to it that implied that. Then Shadow of Revan actually could have been a much better expansion and a lot more believable, other than selling the Revan nostalgia gimmick. Not even going into that whole gimmick mess. But then there's Knights of the Fallen Empire, and I have huge problems. Like, Knights of the Eternal Throne, whatever. If I said Knights of the Fallen Empire, I meant Knights of the Eternal Throne earlier. Knights of the Fallen Empire just sort of spins off as this crazy, psychotic Empress thing that for some reason or another tends to work for some reason. Obviously it doesn't, because you are seeing it fall apart right before the eyes, because Valen is crazy. We don't know why she's crazy. She's just crazy. Now, okay, granted, we probably know a little about why she's crazy with repressed memories and all, and a secret code word, but I mean, it never gives me one attempt to sympathize. I have not 1 ounce of care for Valen, and I'm pretty sure they built it that way on purpose. But at the same time, I think they're trying to sell the empathetic to people who just, like, want to run light side, and I'm just like, there is no way any of my characters would empathize with you. Not one. So the story is lacking, and they all become the same. You are the only difference between my Trooper and the Sith Warrior in terms of story is obviously what side they're on, Republic and Empire. Then there's the whole, let's see, I'm trying to figure out how to describe this. You got the Republic, the Empire. Oh yeah, what fancy weapon they get to help defeat the Emperor Valkorion. It's a mess. It's a muddled mess. And I'm kind of actually glad at the fact that they sort of stopped with Zakul, and except for when Iocath become a thing. You honestly just should have made it Rakatan Tech. That's my opinion. It could have been Rakata. That was my first thought upon landing on Iocath was, is this Rakata? But it turns out it's some unknown civilization that nobody's heard in their life, because why not? There is so much that could have been done there, which was just lost. So, in terms of the content becoming single player, it progressively became single player, into which the loot system became RNG'd. And when the loot system becomes RNG, there is no push to make more ops. They've been promising ops for I don't know how long now. I've just been hearing it from my friend who does a lot of raids. Ops raids, to me, they're the same. And so it's just, I don't even know if one was actually added. So it's just a big freaking question mark there. Like, but they'll release new strongholds, which the new one apparently might screw over the guild flagship. But I will argue that the guild flagship is for an entire group of people, while the stronghold can be for either a guild or personal use. There are people with a crap ton of furniture. I have walked into fully Yavin decorated strongholds in which they do not know what exactly to do with the excess decorations they have. And my advanced combat tracker just crashed, so that's a thing. So with the new stronghold coming out, I see it kind of pointless. They should actually be releasing content. Again, when you don't release content for 2 years, you lose players, and I'm all fine for RP and crap in the RP community, which I'll get into later. But there is no point in just releasing stronghold and PvP matches when your game is actually dying at a moderate rate, and you are not refusing to release PvE content to keep people entertained. I get that what I've been hearing is people have been, a lot of SWTOR's thing has been sent to Anthem in hopes, they'll make successful. The problem is when you do that, you're making one game fail, and if that game fails, you have essentially 2 failed games. You don't want to put all your eggies in one basket, regardless. I mean, it's a good thing to try, and I hope Anthem's a good game. I don't wish wrong by BioWare, considering I've recently played all the Mass Effects, and I greatly loved that series. So, yeah. Even the Mass Effect 3 ending, people will say it sucked. I thought it was fitting, because you spent 3 entire games, 40 hours plus if you're doing everything, to get to that point. So the ending was actually pretty fitting, and I felt it was pretty rewarding. Now, SWTOR's story, on the other hand, they need to take concepts, they need to take punishments for their story. Their story progresses no matter what. And it would be nice to see setbacks. It would be nice to see, like, Darksiders get punished frequently, but at a lesser extent. So you get hit, it's like taking a bunch of weak hits. Whereas the Lightsiders, when they actually make a mistake by being too light-sided, they get hit hard for it, and it hurts. It's like taking a slap to the face if you're dark side, but you're taking many slaps to the face. When the one light side guy picks the light side choice where he should have gone dark side on, he takes a stomach punch by Mike Tyson. This would be some interesting story concepts, and it would lead to some epic things. You could, and I hope you do, and I hope this is actually coming up with a whole going back to the Republic versus the Empire, though I really doubt it will, and I think most of the classes will be the same. I look forward to see how they basically force Smuggler and Bounty Hunter into it, because you kind of have to force those classes. But I know, Mandalorian for Bounty Hunter, blah blah, Privateer, I guess, for Smuggler. But, I mean, I don't think it fits a Smuggler at all, and don't call it a Smuggler, just call it Privateer at that point. Because, frankly, that class is solid Republic, and it shouldn't be unless you're going pure Underground. Or actually do some Underground stuff. I don't know, I'll quit spitting out ideas and move on, but, yeah, I've gone into the no multiplayer content. There is no reason for the group. Dailies are soloable. In fact, one of my dailies is actually this. I am encouraged to do this as a daily and group up with 24 people in Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy still actively spits out multiplayer content. And before people ride my freaking behind, or the person I'm replying to rides my behind, this game had a miserable launch. Like, SWTOR's was actually a pretty decent launch compared to this. This game actually failed and was remade, and it was one of the biggest comebacks in MMO history, if not the biggest to date. So, I mean, granted, that's then, this is now. But there is that. And it's a pretty nice game. I like it. I like the fact there's content being released, so I'm not always forced to just log on to RP, and I don't mind RPing. But there are times where I want to play the game. There are times where I want to get endgame gear. I like to do this stuff, and then I also like to roleplay. It's fun. I can't do that in SWTOR anymore, and I have been kind of discouraged to log on due to only them releasing cosmetic stuff and hypercrates. And frankly, I'm not going to get into the paywall. Actually, let's get into that. The paywall that is SWTOR. That will be the topic for the end of the video, actually, because that is a whole can of worms. So, that being said, it is what it is, and I'm going to apologize right now for all the clicky-clacky. I do have a mechanical keyboard and a sensitive mic, so I'm sorry. Now, there's this one thing where I just have to disagree strongly right now. And she said this, I don't think it was entirely verbatim. I wrote it down. I wrote down all the points I want to discuss. Some of them I left out because I agree full-heartedly, but I probably just talked about them because a lot of it was just content-related stuff regarding the story. So, yeah. And Ashley, you said, and I quote, "Without an RP community, you don't have an MMORPG." I will strongly disagree. An MMORPG does not have to cater to people who actually roleplay in the game, in the sense that you're doing more than just a story, you're role-playing with other people. In actuality, an MMORPG is something like, I'm going to use Guild Wars 1 as an example, because their RP community, from what I saw, was small. They catered to people who did the PvE aspect, which was far larger. The MMO will cater to the people that support it the most. BDO at the moment has a mix of role players and PvPers. They do have PvE, and it's in the game, but a lot of the quote-unquote endgame material is PvP based. There's a lack of meat on the bone for PvE. I'm not the only one who said this. Many people have said it, and I know this is anecdotal, so please don't, bust my nuts over it, I guess, but it's just said so frequently. A lot of people play BDO because it looks pretty. I will admit, once I get my SSD come this Saturday, I will install BDO because it looks pretty, and I will explore the land. But I will not actually seek to do anything because there is no real end-game content that I'm aware of to that game. Now, if you know me wrong, say I'm wrong and call me out. By all means, I am not against this. I just don't really know if BDO when I've talked to my friends about BDO and lack of PvE, they've often agreed, but a lot of them are also role players. And a lot of people have said it's just PvP based. So they're going to cater to the PvPers more due to how the game works and functions. This game has a nice healthy balance. It actually has a server dedicated to raiders. That server is Gilgamesh. It has 2 servers for role players. So it definitely will cater to them. And it does have many PvPers. It will do its best to balance things out between all 3. So yes, so it has that going for it. And there's a lot of broken classes at the moment in this game too that could use a rework, and they have said that Dark Knight will get reworked. It's one of the broken classes. But regardless, there's, content, there's stuff like that, and not to mention, there's a healthy base of all communities, so they have to be cautious with what exactly they choose. We are... Okay, cool. So, yeah, they have to actually watch their balances. SWTOR caters to, mainly from what I've seen, the RP community, if not the PvE community. Actually, they cater to no one at the moment because there's no content being released. So, but they did cater to the healthy balance because they had a nice bunch of all three before they just mysteriously stopped making stuff for it. So, the community makes the game. Whatever is in the game, if the game is more PvP oriented, they are likely to cater to those. It just depends on the audience of the MMO. The RPG aspect comes from the story they weave into it and your character. Whether you choose to partake in it or just ignore it and breeze through it is entirely up to you. Elder Scrolls Online, you can breeze through it or ignore it entirely. In fact, I would like to say the Elder Scrolls games are a good example of just an RPG. You're not really role-playing with any other people. There is no real role-play community unless you're in a Discord or a chat room or something. But there is an role-play element to it in the game. And all MMORPGs have a role-play element within the game itself, which does not require any human interaction. And so there is no real reason for them to cater to just the roleplay community in and of itself. They have plenty of other people to cater to. And with the return of the Empire versus Republic thing, since we're going on about catering, and this is also going to include why the Republic is so dead, the Sith side appeals to more people as a whole based off human nature. Nobody really wants to be the self-sacrificing guy. And I get that Jedi are like that, but I mean, can't we just play a selfish Jedi? I mean, well, probably we can. I don't know. I play a classic, Jedi. So, I mean, maybe? I mean, if it's out there, I'm pretty sure you'll tell me. But, I think there is a selfish Jedi option, but either way, like, the Republic side in general just... it doesn't really appeal to most people, so it's, out of the two sides, often the deadest. Now, there are times where it's a lot more lively, it just depends, but most of the time it's just deader. It is gone. It's gone. People log off the most because you gotta play the quote-unquote good guys. And the Sith, you have slaves, you have power, and you have very little. You have a huge gain to little risk. Now, that's not to say you don't have risk. You clearly have risk, but it's not nearly as bad as, let's say like the Republic side, where you don't have as much power and you really have the same amount of risk. So a lot of people want to go for the Darth title over Jedi Master. It's just the way it is. And there's nothing you can do to really fix that. People are people. They will play what they want. I'm a Republic person at heart. I am actually a Republic Trooper person at heart, personally. So, that is what that is, too. And I know I'm going to say it a lot, but it's just sort of people being people. So, Republic side will always be less populated than the Empire. And I know that's really just sort of a point that you made based off like the activity of the server, I think the Darth Malgus one. It's the same on Starforge. The Republic side is often deader than the Empire. I've seen it many times. Sorry for that. And yeah. Now, from what you've said, it's difficult to find operation groups. and that the devs have no clue on how to balance. Well, the devs having no clue how to balance is clear with every patch. They completely nerf one class while making the other OP. This has happened many times. From one point, like at the beginning of the game, if you remember correctly, Sentinel was like the god tier class. And then I forgot what it was for 2.0. 3.0 came around and it was Vanguard. You could not kill a Vanguard tank to save your life in PvP. I know because I played one and I could not die. I at one point was tanking half, if not most of the team, and I could not die. And if I had a healer on me, I could take the whole team by myself. It was broken. And they will always find a way to break it because I really don't know what the hell they do when it comes to balancing. I guess they wing it. It beats me. They have no clue how to balance and finding operations groups. Nobody wants to do the same operation for 2 years straight. It's all been done. Nobody wants to do them anymore. I never wanted to. People have done Karagas. You can only do Karagas Palace so much before you just quit. Same for Dreadmasters. And then there's also the issue of people who want to get into the endgame stuff like that, but can't really find it. One of the benefits to Final Fantasy is you have an unlock quest for it, but their heads will be like above their head. It'll be a unique quest marker with a blue sign and a plus beside it, meaning something is unlocked there. I mean, the wikis and people will tell you, but then after you unlock it, you have this duty finder, which you could queue here, which I noticed SWTOR has ripped more and more things from probably this. If not, I don't know if Final Fantasy was the first to do it. I'm not going to claim that it is. But based off lately, I have seen new things added to the duty finder for Star Wars, in which you will get a bonus for being a tank. This has been around in Final Fantasy for the past couple years. At least from what I've seen, there's always like a class needed. It's usually tank or healer. Very rarely is it DPS, but that is because everybody tries to play DPS, and that's why I'm waiting in a 16-minute plus waiting queue. It'll probably be 30. But in that time, I get to do other things. So, I mean, there's endgame stuff. There's endgame stuff that I don't want to do, mainly because I haven't looked up a guide or anything, and I'm the type of person to want to go in blind. I play a lot of Dark Souls. In fact, before I botched the previous video, I was actually playing Dark Souls. I like to go in blind and learn as I play. It's something I've always liked to do. It helps. I'm a visual learner, so me watching from a guide won't be nearly as effective as me taking it head on. But everybody's different. So, and touching on balance one more time before I move on. It's always delicate with balance. You can accidentally break a class without meaning to, because what you intend for one thing versus how players use it. So you gotta keep, like, certain things wordy. Like, for example, the Sorcerer Sage immunity and the Smuggler immunity you mentioned. The reason it gets reset for your thing is the Sorcerer has, like, a 10-second actual immunity to everything, if not longer. You stay still and you make this invincible around yourself. The Smuggler rolls operate more like a Dark Souls dodge roll, in which you have at least half a second of invincibility. It's not really enough. It might get rid of a cool crit or any impair, but pair that up with Hollow Traverse and you will eventually make it across the map in a hutball match, no problem. You gotta know how to do it, and some of those people are really good at it. It's not modding, it's not hacking, they just know how to time their things right. And they're rewarded for it. There's nothing you can really do against that. And I know the ball resets when you use Sorcerer Invulnerability, but Sorcerers and Sages have the most broken invulnerability ever. They have the ability to go invincible for literally multiple seconds, break out of it, and it will still be up there for at least 2 to 3 seconds in which you can full heal yourself. That's not including the phase walk you can do in order to teleport back. Like, I understand they nerfed heals, but considering y'all are like one of the most invincible classes in PvP, if y'all aren't ganged upon quick, it's honestly, I don't blame the players for targeting y'all first. I instinctively do it because, especially if you're healer. Now, nerfing heals into the ground wasn't exactly the right move to do, but considering how many options y'all get to literally just get out of the fray and get out from being ganked while your team peels for you is astounding. I don't think anybody else has that power. Smuggler comes close, and they don't have the same invulnerability. They get 2 dodge rolls, a hollow traverse, and maybe a 4 stealth generator. That's it. So it's all about balance, and Sorcerer can be pretty freaking broken if played right. I don't think you can deny that one too. And I don't know how you are at Sorc and PvP. I'm a PvPer myself most of the time, so nobody really wants Hutball. Nobody likes Hutball. You're right on that one. Nobody cares about Hutball. I don't even like it. But it's just sort of moot because I don't really have anything to say about the PvP. It's just meh. They just need to add new content in general at this point, and not PvP, because I don't really consider that much content, considering not many people like to do it. They just do it because it's the only thing left worth to do. And so, I mean, it's pretty much a great way to farm those RNG boxes to get your gear. That way you don't have to do operations. Seriously, the command crate system fucked over Star Wars The Old Republic hard. I don't know a single person in my personal friends that I've talked to which didn't have a problem with command crate system. They were like, oh, it's RNG based, meaning that it's bad. Now, I'm pretty sure the ops will drop the gear quicker, but I mean, if you eventually you're going to get your command crate up to where the same item level gear drops. I do believe, if not just under it. If it's just under it or not, I don't know. But it's just sort of kind of meh. It is really just meh. The RNG system, I know I've said it gone into it before, but it's what pretty much it nailed the coffin for Star Wars The Old Republic. It buried the body. It was the final nail in the coffin. I don't know who approved of it. It was nice on paper, but it didn't work in practice. And so, yeah, the game is now largely single player because of that. There's no reason to group up. You have a companion. Pick your favorite companion, level it to 50 if you want to, and solo all the content. I do it. It's boring. The game is boring. Nobody wants to play a boring game. I mean, unless, like, you're doing a podcast or something. I don't know. I prefer not to do boring games. I prefer to show exciting games or fun games to me. Or just, like, clips of games. I don't do many video postings, but your video actually interested me enough to actually make a reply video, my very first one. So, I mean, benefits, I guess. But since the game is largely single player, that means the state of the economy is sort of screwed. The problem with the state of the economy, though, being sort of screwed in a single player game is the devs are actively putting their hands in the economy. And 9 times out of 10 when that happens, the economy does not go to shit because of players. The economy goes to shit because of the devs adding more items to try to balance the economy, and it backfires. They are Star Wars The Old Republic's solution to the money issue was print more money, and it always fails when you do that method. Printing more money to stabilize a failing economy makes it worse because it cheapens the value. And that is essentially what happened with the cartel market. You could get these, oh god. You could get these cool items on the cartel market, but unlike Final Fantasy's Mog Station, you could sell them on the market board. And so the market wouldn't regulate itself entirely. It doesn't really regulate itself well because of the cartel market. So when you get all the items that are found in game, either craftable or something, you get things that start out like this right here was like at one point actually 2 million. But because more and more crafters actually learned to craft it, especially this dude who liked to spam it, the price went down until it stopped about here. Now, it could get lower, it could not, but the market in Final Fantasy regulates itself because players have access to everything. You don't have to buy anything off the market board to get what you want. You go to a specific dungeon, a specific instance, and hope it drops through RNG, and pray to God you're the one that gets it. The best part is, not everything from any dungeon is sellable. So there are music rules in the game, of which you could not sell, because they drop at the end of every raid. So like the new 24-man that came out always drops like 3 of the same music rolls. So instead of having people put it on the market and having the price go down to essentially 1, you just have people doing the raid to essentially, I guess, get them if they want them? I mean, you don't have to get them. The music rolls and many other things are completely optional. So you don't need them, and therefore there's no point to sell them. A lot with the cosmetic gear. Everything is cosmetic. You can't sell it on the market board, so the prices for them can't get jacked up. Some of the prices of the more expensive things are because said items are rarer. The price depends on the rarity. So anything that has a 1% chance to drop is likely going to be about 3 to 4 million maybe. Who knows? It depends on the item. And so you have this balancing, stabilizing economy, and it also depends on the server. Other servers are more expensive because there's less people, so there's less supply, meaning there's also less demand. There's nothing you can do about that. So the same item like on Balmung here that I showed you worth 120k, that goes for like 2 million on other servers, if not more expensive. Because it's all based off supply and demand. Which is why I'm glad I'm on Balmung. Everything is the cheapest it can be. So that the economy cannot stabilize itself because of the cartel market, the cartel sales. The game pretty much goes out of its way to screw its own economy, and there's nothing that can be done regarding it. Not anymore. And it's sad to say that, because maybe the game could have a functioning economy if they weren't trying to force stabilize it, and it never works when you try to force something. Nobody likes it, or it just fails. So the economy will be permanently screwed. It was screwed since its inception. Nothing can be done anymore. They have sealed the hole in the coffin that is the Star Wars economy. It is just completely garbage. And the free-to-play members are shafted. They're just an unfortunate bystander of the economy. You want to look at where a lot of the shafting comes from for free-to-play members? You want to look at the people you're subbing to. Because there's a lot of restrictions. There's emote restrictions. There's money restrictions. There's all these things. And I know Final Fantasy's a pay-to-play game. But it doesn't hide under the guise of free-to-play. It does not say, we're free-to-play, but then if you sub up, we'll give you all our access to like half our emotes. which in SWTOR they give you access to a quarter, and a lot of the ones they released on the cartel market is just optional. And I mean, it's nice that they're adding new emotes. They do it in Final Fantasy 2. They add new emotes, but they also add it that is unlocked through game content. Like there's an emote for /sweat where I have to do a thing called Heaven on High. I have to do that like X number of times, and then I can actually use the items to trade in and get the emote. The game rewards you for doing content with cool items. And that is something Star Wars just doesn't do anymore. And I was heartbroken when they not only level synced everything. Well, I mean, I was more so heartbroken when they removed the unique farmable flashpoint gear because you can't get it anymore. Or it's just a reskin. Some of them are actually reskins. Like some of the items on the cartel market were literal reskins of flashpoint items. So instead of like going to buy the stalwart armor, I would do Kataminu and farm the armor set. It was nice. I was doing content. I was doing easy content, but I was playing the game for something I wanted. And to me, that is fun. Playing the game for whatever reason you want can be fun. If you're playing the game to get this cool armor that you like, are you not having fun? So it has just been constantly shooting its own self in the foot time and time again. And that is a reason why it is dying. I have said it has been dying for like probably the past year for this very reason. No new content, and they just keep shafting themselves more and more. They think they're trying to appease people, and in a way they are appeasing some people. But the people they're appeasing, I don't think they might be the only ones playing at this point, which I don't blame them for trying to appease them at then. But it's because everybody else has just turned away from what's been implied. I don't know how many people spoke up against the command crate system. I did, because turning anything into RNG gear based will kill the game. However, turning it into RNG gear based per dungeon is just normal. Everybody has a chance to get the gear they want. And in Final Fantasy, they got this neat feature where if the gear drops and you're its class, like if I got Bard gear for the Bard I'm currently playing, I have a chance to need on it. Now, I am one of the nicer people, and I will only need if I actually need the gear. But, I mean, it's just nice that the option's there. So, I mean, there are many cool things SWTOR had that shared with Final Fantasy. There are also many things that it quit doing, which it probably should not have quit doing. And one of them was the cool unique gear you could get from flashpoints. It was just pretty neat and rewarding. There were some flashpoints you wouldn't want to do for obvious reasons. You don't want the gear, you don't like the flashpoint. Everything was valid. And so, yeah, the game just keeps constantly shooting itself in the foot. And to answer your question, I do not think the game is worth subbing. But then again, you kind of have to sub if you want to do anything past a paywall. If you want access to certain features or some of the content itself, you are limited to the number of flashpoints you can do. What sense does that make if you're free to play? You want to entice people to play your game, not turn them away. Making me be restricted to the number of flashpoints I can do does actually sort of kill my will to play the game. And we're probably going to wipe here. So, but it just kills people's will to actually play. It killed my will to play. It's killed others. I'm not one of the few. I'm probably one of the many, actually, that has just stopped playing because there's nothing left to do. There's nothing in the game worth actually playing. I don't want to do the same thing every day in hopes that RNG will drop a gear piece I need. I would rather actually work for a gear piece I need. But I can't do that anymore. And might as well wipe. Oh, cool, I made it. So it's just small things like that. None of the gear is actually farmable anymore. It's sad. It's disheartening. I don't actually want to play. And it's nothing to do with Star Wars in and of itself. I love Star Wars. I would probably go back if there was a reason worth playing, but I'm skeptical of how they handle the new thing coming up. I don't know how the story will transition from Zakul to Empire versus Republic. Like, it makes... One man pretty much usurped an entire army. So, we're Mary Sue now, which is fine. All the heroes in many RPGs are just Mary Sue. So, again, it's fine. But how are they going to write themselves into such a conflict again? It makes me skeptical because of the last two expansions. They have released some cool concepts, but they've delivered them poorly. And so it's just turned me and many others away. I speak for no one but myself, but I will say many others have likely been turned away. So, I don't... nobody really cares for Zakul anymore. There was no point in trying to... if people were trying to police RP through Zakul, oh well, they're crappy for that. And to end on the final note of server merges, I don't really like the fact that PvEers, like you said, it's full of toxic PvEers. Now, maybe Harbinger is full of toxic people, but to say toxic PvEers just sort of does not fit and go off the tongue well. It's not something I would like said about me because I am a PvEer, but I actually try to be polite to people who are polite to me. I try to be helpful. I am also a role player. So, it's just one of those things. I guess watch your choice of wording just because it can bite you. And some people don't want to be labeled as toxic just because they're from Harbinger. Now, when Ebonhawk and Jungma merged, I will say I met some toxic people from Jungma, but Ebonhawk had its fair share too. The whole rivalry thing just never goes well for anyone. If you fight fire with fire, everyone's just gonna get burned. And so it's just one of those things. And just to quote one more thing on story, because I forgot to mention this one earlier, since I'm sort of doing this basically unscripted, is you don't need a good story to have a rewarding game. In fact, if you're going to do a poor story, then at least make each playthrough different. Dark Souls probably has one of the most vague and misunderstood, most open to interpretation stories I've ever seen. Everybody walks away with something different from it. And most first-timers, when I was an actual first-timer, I didn't even know there was a story. I heard the game was hard and I wanted to give it a shot. The gameplay was solid, it was rewarding, there was high risk, high reward. People who explored got rewarded with items. It was fun. It was worth it. So, in my eyes, Dark Souls, while not having the most characteristically solid story, had each playthrough different because it was based off your build. And since it's based off your build, Oh, it's a different result each and every time. That is something fun. You can do that. You can have the same, if you're gonna go the same story with the Knights of Zakul, then you could have each playthrough be different via the gameplay. But it's just slowly turning into one big, boring, bland thing. And that's what it is. There is no difference in any of my playthroughs from Knights of the Fallen Empire. And the fact that an empire fell pretty much so easily makes me wonder, why couldn't the quote-unquote canonized hero do this to the empire? Granted, the empire was at a snail's pace losing the war before Zakul hit. You can argue this all you want, but the Republic controls most of the galaxy with the empire constantly infighting and so on. They were slowly just losing the war at a snail's pace. With that being said, I think I touched on all of the points I really wanted to speak to you about. I might have missed one or two in there because I had to rewatch the video and then actually make a reply based off my thoughts at the time, which were far more coherent than this morning when I tried to do this video. Honestly, I just hope you walk away. Like, I hope when you finish this video, you come from a different perspective and understanding. Because there are some things that it doesn't just fit well. But a lot of the points I will actually agree with you on. But there is some that just I will flat out refuse to agree just based off the fact I don't agree with. Like, the sub being worth it, that's up to every individual who plays the game. I personally don't think it's worth it, but they could turn the game around and make it worth it again. And maybe they could also loosen up the freaking restrictions. I know it's a free-to-play game, but honestly, to say sub-based models don't work anymore, Final Fantasy XIV is one of the most popularized models. You see how characteristically solid the gameplay is. You see me doing my dailies, which involve other people. I am actually encouraged to play with other people. I've already said this. I am just rehashing. And the classes overall are just fun. The classes in Star Wars The Old Republic are fun for their own reasons. So, I mean, it just... It's just the way things are, unfortunately. I don't want to see another Star Wars MMO die. But, I mean, if it does, they did it to themselves this time around. They did it to themselves last time around. Star Wars Galaxies only went because of Star Wars The Old Republic. Both could have been around, and it would have been nice because it would have encouraged competition, which would have encouraged the games to actually better their models, better themselves, and make a fun Star Wars experience for all the fans. It would have been nice, but instead they went with one Star Wars MMO, and they should have kept both. I know Star Wars, the other one, I forgot what it's called already. I think I just said it too. The other one, Star Wars Galaxies, that's it. I know that has an unofficial, like, reboot thing going on, where you can still play the game. But both games had their flaws. Every game will have its flaws. And one of Final Fantasy's, I will admit, is their freaking hotbars. I have, like, 3 hotbars for all my skills, and some of the classes need to diet down. Because, oh my god, it is just terrible. So, I actually like Star Wars The Old Republic hotbars, actually. They're just enough without being too much, and all the classes are about the same. So, that's actually a huge benefit. So, that being said, I hope you walk away from this understanding my perspective. And I hope when I said my opinions as strong as they are, that you did not take any form of offense or anything. That is not my goal. But, I mean, I have offended people before. Oh, freak. I got this bad habit of pulling the boss. So yeah, this is what happens when I get too focused on one thing and I just start blindly letting my muscles do the other. So all in all, I don't hope the game dies. In fact, I hope it makes a comeback. It will be a marvelous comeback, but the game's not on the brink of failure. The brink of failure was Final Fantasy 1.0 with the awful literally everything. So we'll see what the future of Star Wars holds. I'm hoping for the best. I want to be optimistic, but I prefer to be a realist most of the time. And so I am just sort of forced to just unfortunately lay my chips on the table and just tell Star Wars The Old Republic to go away. Because it's just doing everything wrong. It's not doing everything wrong, but it's doing a lot of things wrong, and I've already rehashed everything, so I do hope you have a wonderful day. And anybody else who listens to this, if you want to say anything to me, you are more than welcome to. Just toss a comment down below. And I will actually leave a link in the description below to the part where she said toxic servers, because I do feel, I can't stress that enough, when you call most of a server toxic, like, that's just wrong in my opinion. And I know you didn't mean it, you probably didn't mean it like that. Maybe you have beef with the entire server of Harbinger. I don't know your personal life. It's up to you if you want to share that or not, but I haven't done much of Harbinger. I've been Ebonhawk and Starforge for life. That's just been who I am. And this tank does not do mechanics well. So, yeah, with that being said, I guess I'm signing off too. I hope y'all have a good day to whoever listens to this.